another video. Oh, what are we doing today?
Tensions between the USA and South Africa continue to rise.
Yes.
This past weekend, our ambassador just got kicked out of the US. But before we get into that, let's just check out this clip first, and then you tell me what you think.
Okay.
I thought it would be a while before I did another video on South Africa and US relations, but here we are again. Marco Rubio, the US's Secretary of State, is lashing out at Ibrahim Rasool, who is South Africa's ambassador to the US. This is on social media, and it's in response to an article that quotes Rasool essentially criticizing Donald Trump and their understanding of the policies here in South Africa. Well, Rubio did not like that at all, calling Ibrahim Rasool a race-baiting politician who hates Trump and says he is, quote, persona non grata. And in diplomatic terms, that usually means he has to leave America. Now, Rasool was tasked with improving relations between both countries. We know they deteriorated following the signing into law of the Land Act. But his efforts were seemingly fruitless because he was apparently shut out of Washington. Washington officials instead met with representatives from AfriForum.
So what are your thoughts on all of that?
That's crazy. That's crazy. It's crazy how the US is actually really dictating how we should do things around here. And like they're doing it so subtly but so out there.
So I found this situation interesting. So there's two things I want to speak about. One is Ibrahim Rasool's conduct.
Yeah.
Did you see what he said?
Trump is launching is an assault on incumbency, those who are in power, by mobilizing a supremacism against the incumbency at home, and I think I've illustrated abroad as well. So in terms of that, the supremacist assault on incumbency, we see it in the domestic politics of the USA, the MAGA movement, the Make America Great Again movement, as a response, not simply to a supremacist instinct, but to very clear data that shows great demographic shifts in the USA, in which the voting electorate in the USA is projected to become 48% white, and that the possibility of a majority of minorities is looming on the horizon. And so that needs to be factored in so that we understand some of the things that we think are instinctive, nativist, racist things. I think that there's data that, for example, would support that would go to this wall being built, the deportation movement, etc., etc.
What does he think? What does he think? So what was he supposed to say? Not be honest about it.
No. You can think your boss is a racist, but you never go out. If HR asks you what you think about your boss, would you say my boss is a racist? No, because that's the wrong thing to say, right? You're supposed to
But he's trying to put it in a diplomatic manner. He's trying to say it in not directly saying it.
You literally called him a supremacist and a racist.
It's a supremacist movement, he feels.
So
that there's a pattern. He's highlighting the pattern that is not just in America and the way that they've been doing politics in America lately, but it's how they're also like approaching situations in other countries as well.
My point is, regardless of how you feel, saying these kind of things does not improve international relations, which is your job. And then regardless of how you feel.
But like, I think, how do you improve something when you first don't say it out? That's my problem. Like, spell it out first and then we can move to a solution.
So it's better to get kicked out then?
No, it's not.
So?
I just feel like maybe the manner that they handled it also is not fair. Like, to some extent, they asked for his opinion, and you obviously want somebody to be as honest as possible. If you genuinely want to improve on something, there's a pattern with how they're handling things. It's even with the whole thing of, they took the news from AfriForum and they ran with it. I'm making an example. They ran with it. And anybody else who says anything against that, they don't want to give them the time of day, or they don't even want to hear it. So it's like they only just want things that feed to their narrative, and unfortunately not everybody is going to agree with what they're doing. Or and if you genuinely want opinions, or if you genuinely want to improve, you surely should be open to opinions. And I thought that that's what even Elon Musk and if the president is also rubbing shoulders with him, would probably stand for together as well, is like that freedom of, especially being a democratic country, and some people that put forward democracy so much, and freedom of speech, and not caging people and all of that. They should be the most exemplary of that. But it's like, this was a weird stance that they took. Like, this guy was not being even hateful or like in what he was saying, but it sounded more of like a caution.
My thinking on how the US government responded to the situation has been interesting, because like you said, you have people like Elon who advocate for free speech.
Yes.
So these are the leaders of the free world, right?
Yes.
This is the country of the free, where people can say anything they want. And the main campaign, one of the main things that Elon was campaigning for Donald Trump was free speech. He was saying that the Democratic Party are trying to police free speech. They're trying to silence anybody that goes against them, all that kind of stuff like that. And he even further goes on to say that free speech is most important when you have to listen to somebody you don't like. Yes. Say something you don't like.
Absolutely.
That's why free speech is most important.
We need freedom of speech, and freedom of speech is only relevant if people are allowed, if people you don't like are allowed to say things you don't like. That is the only time freedom of speech is relevant. It can't be that the government is deciding what is or is not misinformation or disinformation, because then you get politics applying to those labels, and in fact, you simply get the suppression of freedom of speech. So really, I think wokeism is evil because it is racist, sexist, and anti-free speech.
But the response of the Secretary General
is
saying otherwise.
Contradiction.
That's a contradiction to the free speech policies that the US that Trump has been pushing lately.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's almost the way they're behaving. It's almost like you literally. You stepped on their corns. Like, you stepped on the actual soul. You know what I'm saying? Like, if the guy was like delusional, for instance, I am not saying he's right, but I'm just saying if he is delusional, if Ibrahim was delusional and there was no truth in what he's saying, why not disprove him? Why not? Because this is your chance to actually address it, and not just like blatantly. You know, like, because it's not like you have not been nose into South African politics, and as a result, your politics have now affected our politics in a way, and now our politics are just intertwined. So there's no way where you cannot expect South Africans to have opinions, especially in the areas that also kind of directly affect us. So it's like, well, instead of him, because he's not the only voice that's been speaking like this or saying this. This is in conversation, and to a point where it could have even been the slip of the tongue in the way that everybody is saying that. But he just happened to now say it on a platform, and he happened to have a title behind him and whatever, and he probably was the perfect target to make an example of, to say, South Africa, stay away from our politics, of which it's not possible because they dragged us in by how they've been treating us now lately as well. So was that not the perfect opportunity for them to disprove what Ibrahim was saying instead of chasing him out? Because it doesn't change that the fact that people think that.
If you watched Trump's campaign, throughout his campaign, they called him Hitler, they called him a Nazi, they called him a threat to democracy, they called him a supremacist, they called him all these things. So in the US, it's nothing new to call Trump a supremacist. It's nothing new. So that's why I'm saying that the response to this is very unusual. So in America, they kind of very sensitive with the whole race baiting stuff, because they literally come from the Biden-Harris administration, where race was literally everything that they were talking about, and they were literally fighting that. They were fighting DEI, they for fighting affirmative action. They want meritocracy, you know, all those kind of things. And now you have an ambassador coming, and also in there was race baiting as well. So obviously the Secretary of State kind of took that personally and was like, that's wrong. His response was wrong in kicking him out. Well, a conversation should be had, because that's what
I'm saying.
That's what diplomats are supposed to do. Like,
That's...
even if you are in disagreement,
absolutely,
you're supposed to have the conversation. So again, this action further proves like a narrative that's been going around where people are saying that Trump's administration is more fascist.
An unsettling question has been dominating the US presidential race. Is Donald Trump a fascist, with some comparing him to Nazi Adolf Hitler? To get to the bottom of this, I sat down with Timothy Ryback, historian and author of Takeover: Hitler's Final Rise to Power. There's a huge debate here in the United States whether it is correct to call Donald Trump or compare Donald Trump with Adolf Hitler. What do you say to that?
I would actually say that we're seeing fascistic tendencies. I think there are fascistic postures, but I don't know if I would go as far to identify someone specifically as a fascist, but I'm speaking as a historian who understands when you say fascist. I do immediately think of Mussolini, I think of Hitler, self-identified fascist. The single most to my mind, similar identifier is an absolute blindness to any kind of defeat, anything that doesn't fit into your worldview. Adolf Hitler was astonishing when you look at at the granular level, the course of his political career. He went from one catastrophe to another, from one defeat to another, and he called the worst defeats. He proclaimed them as victory.
Because now there's somebody criticizing Trump. And now they
it's like a cult, basically, like a Trump cult.
There's somebody criticizing Trump, and that person gets immediately kicked out of the country instead of a open discourse happening where people who disagree with each other can talk it out and find common ground.
Absolutely.
So that's what I get out of this. So like, okay, these are the first signs of what people have been saying that to look out for in Trump's administration, where you can't openly criticize Trump. If you do, even this guy, the Secretary of State of the US, before he joined Trump's administration, he was very critical.
He was very
critical.
And now he's like...
Now everybody who's aligned with Trump's administration are non-critical of him at all.
At all.
Everything that he does
borderline culty.
Yeah, everything that he does is like okay. And even to the point, now they're taking to the point where anybody else who criticizes Trump
there'll be consequences.
Cannot stay in the country, which is wrong. I think the way the US handled this whole situation,
it's wrong.
It's completely wrong.
It's wrong.
It plays into the fears of the people that were having those fears of Trump.
Absolutely.
It plays into those fears that Trump is a fascist and all that kind of stuff like that. So it's an interesting But they
are protecting him because I feel like they are the ones that are doing it on his behalf, rather than it being directly from him. Possibly it's speculation.
Well, I don't know. Whatever's happening there, it seemed to have hit a nerve. Ibrahim's comments seemed to hit a nerve.
It hit a nerve.
He got kicked out.
It hit a nerve.
So I found that very, very interesting.
Very interesting.
This goes against the free speech policy that the Republicans were advocating for in the elections.
Absolutely.
Kicking out somebody who literally just has a different opinion to everybody else, but that's weird to me.
Yeah.
So the way I see things go now is that things are just going to continue to deteriorate until the economy takes a hit. So we might lose like our special trade deals with the US, like the AGOA trade deal.
Of course.
And then the economy takes a hit, and then that's only when you'll see like the government actually try to engage the USA.
And we see
by then it'll be too late.
And we see already with our government, they don't have alternative plans except just tax the working class to fix any shortfalls we have.
Unfortunately, things are gonna get a lot worse before they get better. unfortunately, the way things are going.
Yeah.
So every week, just expect to see more news about the US and SA getting worse. Things are just getting worse. So it is what it is. I just found it interesting the way the US government reacted to that.
Yeah.
Shows that they're not as free speech as they say they are. But it is what it is. You guys let us know what you think about this whole situation.
Yeah, let us know.
Don't forget to like, subscribe.
And keep watching. Goodbye.
We'll check you guys in the next one.